So this brings us to John's PFA violation hearing on October 27th, 2015. No, I'm not going to read this transcript out loud to you because it's mostly without any sort of incident, so there's really no reason to go through it play by play. But there are a couple of interesting notes contained there within. Primarily, the fact that you will not find a picture of Officer Podlisky's supposed evidence that was found of John pressing the like button on Facebook on one of Tara Gill's posts. And if you'll remember back to last episode, the shady nature in which this evidence was added into the case. 2 days after the incident occurred on August 29th, so that would be August 31st, Tara brings pictures of the Facebook button being pressed to the police station where Officer Podlisky takes pictures of her pictures, which somehow do not end up in the police report that's on file with the courthouse. And as you can check out by looking at the document, it's document 7 in the file on Dropbox. Again, if you haven't checked it out already, I'm sure you have, but if you haven't or you weren't aware, there's a Dropbox file that's public. It's listed at corruptclearfield.com. Everyone can access it, and you can follow along with all these documents. So I urge you to read the transcript and take a peek for any sign of evidence, because there is no evidence attached to this transcript either. And John, thinking that he must have accidentally pressed the like button on Facebook and not really having any other recourse, at his attorney's recommendation, Attorney Stephanie Cooper, he pleads guilty to the PFA violation, pleads no contest to it, and that means he is now officially on probation. He has to pay a fine, and he also will be going to jail for 6 months, no questions asked, if his PFA is violated anytime within the next 3 years. That will be a second PFA violation, because the final protection from abuse order at this point, of course, has been extended out until September 29th of 2018. So his fate is all but sealed after this hearing. He really has no recourse at this point. All of the allegations and charges that had been piling on top of him, and he knew the moment that he left this courtroom that it would be nearly impossible for him to not have another allegation lobbied at him, multiple allegations, and eventually to have one of them stick, thus ending up with him serving at least 6 months in jail. Now, before we move away from this episode, and this is of course a quick one, but I did want to give the first PFA hearing its own little space to discuss some of these ideas. I didn't want them to bleed over into some of the other things we talk about. And I do want to talk about PFA timing, exactly how it works, because I've mentioned it a little bit in previous episodes, but I think it's important to have a comprehensive view of exactly how all of these things go down. Initial PFAs are 10-day orders. I talked about in the first episode how these 10-day orders are almost universally granted. I think the statistic I quoted from one Allegheny County research study was 97+% of these initial 10-day PFA PFA requests are approved. Now, once that happens, the judge reviews the evidence and they can issue a final protection from abuse order for up to 3 years. It doesn't always end up being 3 years right away. The judge can go less than that. But if any subsequent allegations or violations take place, the judge has the right to then go back and retroactively add 3 years on, extending it out 3 years from that date, which is what happened to John with this one, and why the PFA against him is actually still active as of this day until September 29th of 2018, almost ensuring that as soon as he's out of jail, which he's in jail right now, he's going to be subject to another allegation. He's going to be subject to another violation of his PFA unjustly, which is one of the reasons that I am recording this entire series of podcasts, taking this story to you, the listener, and hoping that something can be done to thwart this just absolute abuse of the justice system. To break this down into terms of exactly what happened to John, just to go back over this one more time, his PFA was set to expire in September of 2015. Tara began desperately taking action against him around 1 month before it was set to expire, and as John's clock was winding down, she managed to get the Facebook like incident onto the record as a PFA violation, thus justifying the courts and extending the PFA out to 2018 and setting the stage for him to further be put in jail. The Facebook like incident is really the focal point of this entire story, because it is the moment where all of the things that have happened now, everything that's spiraled out of control, it's sort of the fulcrum of everything. It's where all of the issues that are taking place in his life can be traced back to. And just wanted to hammer that point home. One other thing that I do think is rather interesting in regards to John is the difference between the Lawrence Township Police and the Clearfield Borough Police. They're two different police departments. Now, remember, Officer Curry, when she took Tara's complaint about the two incidents that had happened that John was eventually rung up on with charges from Officer Podlisky, even though Officer Curry had found no basis for those charges, that was Lawrence Township that took the more reasoned approach, saying, no, Tara, there's nothing here for us to charge John with. In Clearfield, of course, as soon as they got a hold of John's case, instantly took those allegations and put them onto the record again, only at the Clearfield Borough Police Department, and actually charged him with stalking and harassment. They also, very sloppily, I think we can all agree at this point, collected quote-unquote evidence of John pressing the like button on Facebook to further deteriorate his situation. Now, I had a chance to speak with the police chief of Lawrence Township. Unfortunately, the police chief of the Clearfield Borough would not speak to me without a lawyer, is what he told me. But the Lawrence Township police chief talked with me, and though he could not tell me of any specific incidents, how many reports there might be, he did tell me that a lawyer could subpoena all complaints that a person had made, i.e. that Tara had made, against a person like John, so that they could see if there had been a large amount of unfounded, baseless allegations made against a person. You know, the same sort of fact pattern that you would find if a person like Tara was constantly launching bogus allegations at someone like John over the course of an entire year to try to get that first PFA violation against him so that the PFA would be extended out for 3 years. Of course, the Lawrence Township Police Department, being a very reasonable group of individuals, they saw through this and found no evidence on many occasions. At least I'm assuming that's what the police chief was pointing me towards, which is why none of these allegations resulted in John being charged with anything. And that's important to note because they have a law in Pennsylvania, and I would assume in other places around the country, that only if someone is charged do allegations or complaints from someone become public. And the reason they do this is because, let's say you, the listener, or somebody that I disliked, and I wanted to make your life a living hell, I could actually go to the police station, report that you had sexually inappropriate relations with a minor, or, had some other just unfathomable offense that you had taken part in. And if they don't investigate first and decide whether or not they're going to charge before making those allegations public, then the damage can kind of already be done to someone's reputation. If word were to get out, you might even be fired from your job just by the mere, mention of your name alongside those allegations, even though nothing has been proven yet. So it's not a bad thing that they don't release all that information, but it does shield someone like Tara, who's making constant bogus accusations against someone like John, from having those allegations be on the public record. And only a lawyer for John himself can subpoena any allegations or accusations that were made by someone like Tara with the Lawrence Township Police Department. That's part of what we're collecting a legal fund for, is we want to be able to subpoena those records and see if there is a fact pattern of her just trying to get something to stick. And then, as we see here, at the end of August, beginning of September, she began to get desperate because she knew she needed to get one more PFA allegation out there that would finally stick so that the PFA would be extended out for 3 years into 2018. Thanks for listening to this episode of Corrupt Clearfield. Remember, you can follow along with all of the documents I'm referencing at corruptclearfield.com. Just scroll down and click the link to the Dropbox file. All the documents are cataloged in order as they appear in each episode. You can also help to support this investigation as it continues, and also our family as we attempt to recover from the damage that has been done. You can donate either by going to corruptclearfield.com and clicking the link as you scroll down the page, or you can go directly to paypal.me/CrazyGaby. That's my broadcasting alias. Again, that's paypal.me/CRAZ as in zebra, YGAB as in Bravo, EY. Thanks for listening. Until next episode.